1938, Sigmund Freud arrives in London, a refugee from the Nazis. Salvador Dali pays him a visit.
Until now, I had been inclined to regard the surrealists, who apparently have adopted me as their patron saint, as complete fools. But that young Spaniard with his fanatical eyes and undeniable technical mastery made me revise my opinion. In the pictures of the masters of Ingres or Leonardo, that which interests me is precisely the search for the unconscious idea. Dali's mystery is manifested outright. The picture is but a mechanism to reveal itself.
Mexico is about the only land that will have him. So here he is, Trotsky, landing at Tampico with his wife. Once Lenin's partner and commander of the Red Army, he's dodged about from country to country. And one after another, the men on trial in Moscow confess that they've been plotting under his direction. But Trotsky himself finds a refuge.
After the collapse of his alliance with the Communist Party, Breton travels to Mexico and meets Trotsky. Together they write a manifesto and make plans for a federation of independent revolutionary artists.
In art, man expresses his need for harmony and a full existence which class society constantly denies him. That is why there is always implied a conscious or unconscious, active or passive, optimistic or pessimistic protest against reality in any authentic artistic creation. Art can be the revolution's great ally only insofar as it remains true to itself.
The Federation is short-lived. By 1940, Trotsky has been murdered, and many of the surrealists have fled from the German invasion. These artists in exile in New York include André Breton, Marcel Duchamp, Max Ernst, Salvador Dali, Yves Tanguy, and André Masson. During these years, Max Ernst paints a series of visionary landscapes. surrealists work in America, many of their former colleagues have joined the French resistance.
Forces of the French underground swarm against the Nazi and fight behind barricades as the Parisian masses have fought in many an insurrection. Patriot fighters blaze away at German troops and buildings. They're shooting everywhere. Children hurried across a street to safety, out of a bullet-swept area. Scenes of the Paris uprising filmed by a French newsreel cameraman attached to the Patriot forces. A wounded French Negro of the underground fighters. And there's a German soldier. They're shooting at him. With terrifying realism, this starkly dramatic motion picture film shows the death of a Nazi killed by Patriot gunners. A woman takes his gun. Vive la France! The shout rings from every throat. De Gaulle, symbol of free France. And resurgent Paris cheers to the strains of the Marseillaise.
In 1946, André Breton returns to a hostile Paris. The committed writers who have fought against the Nazis regard surrealism with scorn. Jean-Paul Sartre writes,
The originality of surrealism lies in its attempt to appropriate everything. Metaphysics, the aristocracy, parasitism, alliances with revolutionary groups. The fact is that when the time for action came, none of them were prepared to act. Some of them killed themselves. Others are in exile. Those who remain are in exile amongst us.
Tristan Tzara is now a member of the Communist Party and a veteran of the French resistance.
Where is surrealism today? And how can it justify itself historically when we know that during the occupation it has been absent from this war, absent from our hearts, and from our actions? The sole voice of surrealism able to appear freely during the war was a luxurious magazine published in New York. It did not contain the slightest mention of the Nazi occupation, or of those who had other concerns than the playing of harmless surrealist games. History has passed surrealism by.
Jean Arp is not impressed by the political commitments of his former Dada colleagues.
Some old friends of mine from the days of Dada, who always fought for dreams and freedom, are now disgustingly preoccupied with class aims and are busy turning the Hegelian dialectic into a hurdy-gurdy tune. Conscientiously, they mix poetry and the 5-year plan in one pot, but man will not allow himself to be transformed into a scrubbed, hygienic numeral. It is hard to imagine how the greatest individualists can come out for a termite state